Look closely at your hairline, the slow thinning, the widening part, the extra strands left behind on your pillow. Most people blame age, some blame genetics, and many simply surrender. But what if the real story is happening far beneath the surface of your scalp? Inside blood vessels so tiny you could barely see them under a microscope? Hair loss is not just about getting older, it is a biological signal. Every single hair on your head grows from a living mini organ called a follicle, and that follicle is one of the most metabolically active structures in your body. It demands constant oxygen, constant nutrients, constant cellular repair. Cut off its supply, and it begins to shrink. Research shows that reduced microcirculation, the flow of blood through tiny capillaries, is strongly associated with hair thinning. In fact, biopsies of balding scalps reveal significantly fewer and narrower blood vessels compared to healthy ones. Less blood flow means less oxygen. Less oxygen means weaker hair production. Weaker production leads to thinner strands. Thinner strands lead to visible loss. This doesn't happen overnight, it happens silently, gradually, year after year. And here's the shocking part. By the time you notice visible thinning, up to 50% of follicle function may already be compromised. But circulation is only part of the story. Now imagine this. Deep inside your body, chronic low-grade inflammation is quietly simmering. You don't feel it. There's no fever, no pain, but inflammatory molecules are circulating in your bloodstream every single day. Studies show that people with androgenetic alopecia, pattern hair loss, often have elevated inflammatory markers around the follicle. The immune system, instead of protecting the hair root, begins to disrupt it. Over time, this inflammation causes a process called miniaturization. The follicle shrinks, the growth phase shortens, the resting phase lengthens. Hair that once grew thick and strong begins to grow finer, shorter, weaker, until eventually it stops. This is not simply cosmetic. This is vascular health. This is immune balance. This is metabolic stability. Your scalp is one of the most circulation-dependent tissues in your body, and as we age, circulation naturally declines. After age 40, blood vessel flexibility decreases. Nitric oxide production, the molecule that helps vessels dilate, drops. Oxygen delivery becomes less efficient, and your body makes a survival decision. When nutrients are limited, your body prioritizes the heart, the brain, the liver. Hair becomes optional. That's why hair loss can accelerate during times of stress, illness, crash dieting, or blood sugar instability. The body senses threat. It conserves resources. In fact, sudden shedding, known as telogen effluvium, is often triggered by physiological stress, surgery, infection, emotional trauma, nutrient deficiency. The follicles don't die. They pause. But here's where it becomes even more fascinating. Oxidative stress, the cellular damage caused by unstable molecules called free radicals, directly harms the delicate cells inside the hair bulb. Research has found higher levels of oxidative damage in balding scalp tissue compared to non-balding areas. Free radicals damage DNA, they damage proteins, they damage lipid membranes, and the follicle, being so metabolically active, becomes a prime target. Now combine poor circulation with chronic inflammation and oxidative stress. You create the perfect storm for thinning hair, and it gets deeper. Insulin resistance, a condition affecting millions of adults, has also been linked to hair loss. Elevated blood sugar increases inflammatory signaling and impairs blood vessel function. When blood vessels stiffen, microcirculation suffers. The scalp feels it first. That's why metabolic health and hair health are intimately connected. When blood sugar spikes daily, when processed foods dominate the diet, when sleep is poor and stress is high, the follicles absorb the consequences. But here's the hopeful truth. In many cases, follicles are not dead. They are dormant, underperfused, inflamed, undernourished, and biology is remarkably responsive when given the right signals. Studies on improved scalp blood flow show increased hair density over time. Research on anti-inflammatory nutrition patterns demonstrates reductions in systemic inflammatory markers. Antioxidant-rich diets have been shown to reduce oxidative stress at the cellular level. When circulation improves, follicles receive oxygen again. When inflammation drops, immune attack calms. When oxidative stress decreases, cellular repair accelerates. The growth phase, known as anagen, can extend. Strands can thicken. Density can improve. But this requires consistency. It requires understanding that hair is not separate from the rest of the body. It is a reflection of internal terrain. Think of your scalp like soil. If the soil is dry, inflamed, and depleted, no seed can thrive. But restore the water supply, rebalance the nutrients, calm the environment. Growth becomes possible again. And here is the most empowering part of all. You influence circulation every day. You influence inflammation every day. You influence oxidative stress every day. Through what you eat, through how you sleep, through how you manage stress, through how you move your body. Exercise increases nitric oxide production and enhances vascular flexibility. Deep sleep regulates inflammatory pathways. A diet rich in polyphenols and omega-3 fatty acids reduces inflammatory signaling. This is not about miracle shampoos. This is not about temporary cosmetic solutions. This is about cellular biology. Hair loss is often the early whisper of deeper imbalance. The question is not, how do I cover this up? The question is, what is my body trying to tell me? Because when microcirculation weakens, it doesn't only affect hair, it affects brain function, heart health, metabolic resilience. When inflammation rises, it doesn't only shrink follicles, it accelerates aging across tissues. Your scalp may be showing you the first visible clue. So instead of seeing hair loss as defeat, see it as data, a signal, an opportunity, a wake-up call. Because once you restore blood flow, calm inflammation, and reduce oxidative stress, you're not just supporting hair, you are supporting vitality. And sometimes, when the internal environment transforms, the mirror begins to change too. Not overnight, not magically, but biologically. And biology, when respected, can be incredibly powerful. Stand in front of the mirror for a moment and look at your hair, not as style, not as vanity, but as biology in motion. Every strand rising from your scalp is built from protein, fueled by micronutrients, protected by antioxidants, and regulated by hormones. It is alive at the root, it is responsive, and it listens carefully to what you put on your plate. Your hair follicles are among the fastest dividing cells in the human body. That means they require a constant, steady supply of amino acids, vitamins, minerals, and oxygen. When that supply weakens, growth slows. When it strengthens, something remarkable can happen. Food is not just calories. Food is information. Start with protein, the raw material of hair itself. Hair is made primarily of keratin, a structural protein formed from amino acids. If dietary protein intake drops, your body makes a survival decision. It diverts amino acids to organs essential for life, your heart, your brain, your immune system. Hair becomes secondary, shedding increases, growth shortens. Research shows that inadequate protein intake can push follicles prematurely into the resting phase, a process called telogen effluvium. This is not cosmetic. This is a nutrient-sensing response deeply wired into your biology. Eggs provide all 9 essential amino acids in highly bioavailable form. They also contain biotin, a B vitamin crucial for keratin infrastructure. Severe biotin deficiency has been directly linked to hair thinning and brittle strands. Cooking eggs neutralizes avidin, a protein in raw egg whites that can block biotin absorption. The science is clear. The way you prepare your food determines the signal it sends to your cells. Then there are omega-3 fatty acids, found in walnuts and fatty fish like salmon. These fats are not just heart-healthy, they are anti-inflammatory mediators. Chronic inflammation around the follicle has been observed in individuals with pattern hair loss. Omega-3s help reduce inflammatory cytokines and improve vascular flexibility. In clinical studies, supplementation with omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids has been associated with increased hair density and reduced shedding over several months. Why? Because follicles thrive in calm, well-nourished environments. They struggle in inflamed ones. Now consider zinc, a mineral often overlooked but biologically essential. Pumpkin seeds are a rich source. Zinc plays a direct role in hair follicle recovery and tissue growth. Low zinc levels have been found in individuals experiencing diffuse hair loss. Without adequate zinc, cellular repair slows, immune balance shifts, and follicles weaken. Just a small handful of pumpkin seeds can provide a meaningful portion of your daily zinc requirement. That's not folklore, that's trace mineral physiology. Iron tells a similar story. Spinach and leafy greens provide plant-based iron along with vitamin C to enhance absorption. Iron deficiency is one of the most common nutritional causes of hair thinning, particularly in women and older adults. Without iron, hemoglobin cannot effectively transport oxygen. Without oxygen, high-demand tissues like hair follicles suffer first. The follicle is oxygen-hungry. Deprive it, and growth falters. But leafy greens offer something else: dietary nitrates. These compounds convert into nitric oxide in the body, a molecule that relaxes blood vessels and enhances circulation. Improved blood flow means improved nutrient delivery to the scalp. Food can literally help open the vascular gates that nourish your hair. Now look at blueberries. Their deep color comes from anthocyanins, powerful antioxidants that combat oxidative stress. Oxidative stress damages follicle cells and accelerates aging. Studies examining balding scalp tissue have identified elevated markers of oxidative damage compared to non-balding areas. Antioxidants neutralize free radicals before they injure cellular DNA. That protection matters when your follicles are dividing rapidly and constantly replicating. Green tea adds another layer. It contains epigallocatechin gallate, known as EGCG, a compound studied for its ability to influence pathways involved in androgen metabolism. Dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, plays a role in pattern hair loss. While green tea is not a drug, laboratory research suggests EGCG may modulate some of the biological signals that contribute to follicle miniaturization. But beyond hormones, green tea improves metabolic health and reduces oxidative stress. Stable blood sugar levels are critical because insulin resistance has been linked to vascular dysfunction and inflammation, both enemies of healthy follicles. Your scalp is not isolated from your metabolism. It reflects it. Vitamin D adds yet another dimension. Fatty fish, such as salmon, provide this fat-soluble vitamin that interacts directly with receptors in hair follicles. Low vitamin D levels have been associated with certain forms of hair loss. Vitamin D influences cellular growth cycles and immune regulation. Deficiency is common, particularly in older adults. Repletion supports more than bone health. It supports follicular signaling. When you combine high-quality protein, omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, iron, antioxidants, nitrates, and vitamin D, you create a biological symphony. Each nutrient plays a role in angiogenesis, the formation of healthy blood vessels. Each reduces inflammatory noise. Each supports cellular energy production within the follicle. This is not about one miracle food, it is about synergy. Imagine beginning your day with 2 cooked eggs and sautéed spinach. That single meal delivers complete protein, biotin, iron, nitrates, and fat-soluble nutrients. Add green tea instead of a sugary beverage, and you reduce glycemic spikes that inflame blood vessels. At lunch, a salad topped with salmon and pumpkin seeds provides omega-3s and zinc. A handful of blueberries as a snack supplies antioxidant defense. These are not extreme measures. They are consistent signals. Hair grows slowly, approximately half an inch per month. That means any nutritional change requires patience. Follicles cycle through growth, transition, and rest. The average cycle spans years, but biology responds to sustained input. Clinical nutrition research repeatedly shows that dietary patterns influence inflammatory markers, vascular function, and oxidative stress within weeks. The visible effects on hair take longer, but the internal transformation begins early. Your body is always listening. When you flood it with processed foods, excessive sugar, and nutrient-poor calories, inflammatory signals rise. Blood vessels stiffen, insulin spikes, oxidative stress accelerates. When you nourish it with whole, nutrient-dense foods, cellular repair mechanisms activate, endothelial function improves, immune balance stabilizes. Hair follicles are exquisitely sensitive to these changes. They do not require perfection, they require consistency. No single blueberry will regrow hair overnight. No single cup of green tea will reverse years of metabolic strain. But repeated daily choices accumulate. They shift the terrain, and the terrain determines the outcome. Think of your scalp not as a cosmetic canvas, but as living tissue connected to your cardiovascular system, your immune network, your endocrine signaling. When you eat strategically, you are not feeding hair directly. You are feeding the ecosystem that sustains it. This is the deeper truth. Food activates biological pathways. It turns genes on and off. It influences blood vessel formation. It modulates immune responses. It affects hormone metabolism. Your plate is powerful. When you align nutrition with cellular need, you create the conditions for resilience. And sometimes resilience reveals itself in the mirror, not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually. Stronger strands, reduced shedding, improved texture. Because when the internal environment transforms, the follicle senses safety again. And when a follicle feels safe, nourished, and oxygenated, it does what it was designed to do. It grows. You want thicker hair. You want the shedding to stop. You want to look in the mirror and see strength instead of slow retreat. But here's the uncomfortable truth no one tells you. Hair does not respond to desperation. It responds to consistency. There is no miracle food, no single vitamin, no overnight reversal, because hair growth is not an event. It is a biological cycle measured in months, sometimes years. Every follicle on your scalp lives through phases: growth, transition, rest, and release. The growth phase, called anagen, can last anywhere from 2 to 7 years. The resting phase can last several months before a strand finally sheds. That means what you do today may not show up in the mirror for 3, 4, even 6 months. And that's where most people give up. Scientific studies on nutritional hair recovery show measurable improvements often begin after 90 days of consistent intervention. Not 7, not 14, 90. Because biology moves at the speed of cells dividing, blood vessels adapting, inflammation cooling, and hormones recalibrating. Consistency is not boring. Consistency is cellular reprogramming. When you eat adequate protein every single day, your body stops rationing amino acids away from hair production. Keratin synthesis stabilizes. Strands become stronger at the root. When you stabilize blood sugar daily, insulin spikes decrease. Lower insulin improves vascular health. Better vascular health means improved scalp circulation. When circulation improves, oxygen delivery increases. When oxygen increases, follicle metabolism strengthens. It is a chain reaction. Research shows that chronic inflammation shortens the hair growth phase, but anti-inflammatory dietary patterns, rich in omega-3 fats, polyphenols, and fiber, reduce inflammatory markers in the bloodstream within weeks. Lower inflammation allows follicles to remain in the growth phase longer. Longer growth phase means longer, thicker strands, but this only happens when the signals are repeated consistently. Think about sleep. During deep sleep, your body releases growth hormone, a powerful regulator of cellular repair. Poor sleep elevates cortisol, a stress hormone that can push follicles prematurely into the resting phase. One bad night won't cause hair loss. Chronic sleep deprivation might. Consistency in sleep is consistency in hormonal stability. Now think about stress. Psychological stress triggers inflammatory signaling and disrupts the hair cycle. Researchers have documented cases where intense emotional stress caused sudden shedding months later. The follicles didn't disappear, they reacted. When stress becomes chronic, cortisol remains elevated. Elevated cortisol constricts blood vessels and diverts energy away from non-essential functions. Hair is considered non-essential. But stress reduction is not about one meditation session. It is about daily nervous system regulation. Repeated calm signals tell the body it is safe to invest in growth again. Then there is micronutrient sufficiency. Iron levels do not rise after one spinach salad. Vitamin D levels do not normalize after one serving of salmon. Zinc deficiency does not correct itself overnight. Deficiencies develop gradually. Repletion also happens gradually. Clinical research consistently shows that correcting nutrient deficiencies takes weeks to months of steady intake, and hair, being a low-priority tissue during scarcity, is often the last to recover. This is why consistency creates regrowth conditions. You are not forcing hair to grow. You are removing the obstacles preventing it from growing. You are extending the anagen phase. You are calming inflammatory interference. You are restoring microcirculation. You are stabilizing hormonal signals, and that requires rhythm. The body thrives on rhythm. Regular meals stabilize glucose. Regular exercise enhances endothelial function. Regular sleep synchronizes circadian hormones. Circadian rhythm itself influences hair follicle cycling. Disrupted sleep patterns have been associated with altered regenerative processes in skin and hair tissues. Your follicles are not separate from your internal clock. Consistency is also metabolic. Insulin resistance has been linked to certain forms of hair thinning. When blood sugar remains elevated for years, it damages blood vessels and increases oxidative stress. The scalp's microvasculature suffers silently, but studies show that improved dietary patterns and regular physical activity can enhance insulin sensitivity within weeks. Improved insulin sensitivity reduces inflammatory stress on blood vessels. Better blood vessels nourish better follicles. This is not a quick fix. This is terrain transformation. Imagine your scalp as farmland. If the soil has been depleted for years, low nutrients, poor irrigation, high toxins, you cannot expect one rainfall to restore it. But if you enrich the soil daily, irrigate it consistently, protect it from erosion, and give it time, something changes beneath the surface long before you see green shoots. Hair regrowth is often invisible at first. Tiny vellus hairs begin to appear. Follicles once dormant begin reactivating. The growth phase lengthens quietly, and then one day, months later, you notice fewer strands in the shower drain. That is not coincidence. That is accumulated biology. Consistency also means avoiding what harms the cycle. Crash dieting, severe calorie restriction, and rapid weight loss are well-documented triggers for shedding. When the body perceives famine, it conserves energy. Hair growth pauses. Sustainable nourishment protects against that signal. Overtraining without recovery elevates stress hormones. Extreme supplementation without medical guidance can create imbalances. Even excessive vitamin A intake has been associated with hair loss. Balance matters. The body does not reward extremes. It rewards steady support. There is something deeply empowering in this truth. Because consistency is accessible. You cannot change your genetics, but you can influence your daily signals. You can choose protein at breakfast. You can choose leafy greens at lunch. You can choose to walk, to breathe deeply, to sleep on time. These choices seem small, but small, repeated daily, become biological momentum. Hair grows approximately half an inch per month. That means in 6 months, you have the potential for 3 inches of stronger growth, if the environment supports it. 6 months will pass whether you act or not. The difference is what signals you send during that time, and here is the most powerful realization. Consistency does more than regrow hair. It improves cardiovascular health. It enhances metabolic flexibility. It supports immune resilience. It slows systemic aging. Hair becomes the visible reward of invisible discipline. When you commit to steady nourishment, stable sleep, balanced stress, and anti-inflammatory eating, you are not chasing vanity. You are cultivating vitality. There may be days when you doubt the process, days when the mirror shows little change, days when shedding feels discouraging, but inside your scalp, capillaries may be strengthening, inflammatory markers may be declining, follicles may be extending their growth cycle. Transformation is often silent before it becomes visible. Consistency is not glamorous. It is powerful. And when you understand that regrowth is the result of months of aligned signals, not a single magic solution, you stop searching for miracles and start building momentum. Hair does not demand perfection. It demands patience. It demands repetition. It demands that you respect the pace of biology. And when you do, When you commit to daily nourishment, steady rhythms, and sustainable habits, you create something extraordinary. An environment where dormant follicles can awaken, an environment where growth feels safe again, an environment where the comeback is not dramatic, but undeniable. And one morning, when you look into the mirror, you may not just see thicker hair, you may see proof that consistency reshapes biology.